Right then, Forest faithful, what I'm about to tell you will absolutely change everything you thought you knew about this transfer window. The last 48 hours? They've been nothing short of revolutionary. We're talking about seismic shifts that prove Nottingham Forest aren't just competing anymore. We're conquering. You think you've been keeping up with the madness at the City ground? Think again, because what's unfolded in the last 2 days will blow your mind and show you exactly why this club is operating on a completely different level now. I've got 5 explosive revelations that demonstrate just how far we've come from those dark days of relegation battles and League One fears. 5 stories that prove Evangelos Marinakis and Nuno Espirito Santo are playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. We're talking about a Danish captain who's just given us the green light we've been waiting for. A transfer battle where we're making Serie A champions look like amateurs. Italian giants being left in our dust as we snatch targets from under their noses, and a pursuit so audacious it involves players that Arsenal and Inter Milan can only dream about. This isn't just another transfer update, Forest fans. This is the moment our club announces to the football world that we're not here to make up the numbers, we're here to dominate. From the mountains of Austria to the boardrooms of Italy, from Champions League stadiums to the offices of Europe's biggest clubs. These 48 hours have shown that when Nottingham Forest wants something, we get it. The championship feels like a different lifetime, doesn't it? Just 3 years ago, we were fighting for survival in the second tier. Now we're outbidding Napoli, embarrassing AC Milan, and convincing international captains to choose us over Champions League football. But here's what makes these 48 hours so special. Every single revelation I'm about to share proves that our European qualification wasn't a fluke. It was just the beginning. The ambition we're showing, the money we're willing to spend, the caliber of players who are actively choosing Forest over supposedly bigger clubs. It's all building towards something truly special, and the timing couldn't be more perfect. With just days until our Premier League season starts, with European football on the horizon, with the whole world watching to see if we can back up last season's incredible achievement, these 48 hours have given us all the answers we needed. So here's what I need from you. Like this video if you're ready for the full story. Drop a comment telling me which revelation shocked you most, and make sure you're subscribed because this is only the beginning of what promises to be the most important season in our recent history. The first revelation alone will change how you view every other transfer we've been linked with this summer. He's been the heartbeat of Champions League football for 3 seasons. The captain who's led RB Salzburg through some of the biggest nights in European competition, but what he said just 14 hours ago has sent shockwaves through the football world and given Forest fans the clearest sign yet that something massive is about to happen. I'm talking about Mads Bidstrup, and the 2 words that have changed absolutely everything about our summer transfer strategy. We'll see. Now you might think that sounds casual, even dismissive. But let me tell you exactly why those 2 words represent the biggest breakthrough Forest have had in this entire transfer window, and why they could signal the arrival of our most important signing since promotion. For weeks, Salzburg officials have been absolutely stonewalling any suggestion that their captain might leave. Their sporting director was practically shouting from the rooftops, "The fans can rest easy. We are absolutely confident that Mads will stay with us." The message was clear, unequivocal, and seemingly final, until Bidstrup himself was directly asked about Forest's interest. That's when everything changed. That's when the player himself opened the door that his club had been desperately trying to keep shut. When pressed about the rumors linking him to the City ground, when asked directly about his future beyond his transfer window, Bidstrup looked the journalist straight in the eye and said, "We'll see." After that, there are 3 weeks until the end of the transfer window. We'll see. Those words, captured just 14 hours ago by Austrian outlet Laola One, have completely transformed the dynamics of this potential transfer. But here's why this response is so much more significant than you might realize. Bidstrup isn't just any midfielder. We're talking about a 24-year-old who captains a Champions League club, who's been compared to N'Golo Kante by Thomas Frank, who's made 11 Champions League appearances and scored against elite European opposition. The tactical profile is absolutely perfect for what Nuno needs. Bidstrup operates as either a number 6 or number 8. He's got the engine of Kante, but with superior passing range, and his pressing statistics are off the charts. We're talking about a player who dominates midfield duels and defensive recoveries in a way that nobody in our current squad can match. And here's the psychological masterstroke that makes this so compelling. Forest have made Bidstrup their absolute priority after the Douglas Luiz situation became complicated. Not a backup option, not a consolation prize. Their number one target in central midfield. The timing of his comments couldn't be more perfect either. We're in that crucial final 3 weeks of the transfer window that he specifically mentioned. Contracts need to be sorted, deals need to be completed, and players need to make decisions that will define their next few years. But there's another layer to this story that makes it even more fascinating. According to sources close to the negotiations, Bidstrup shares the same agent as Taiwo Awoniyi, the same representative who successfully navigated Taiwo's move to the city ground, who understands how Forest operate, who knows exactly what we can offer players. This isn't just about convenience, it's about having someone in Bidstrup's ear who can speak from experience about what it means to join this project, about how Nuno develops players, about the ambition that Marinakis brings to everything we do. The contrast with our Douglas Luiz pursuit couldn't be more stark. While the Brazilian has been dragging his feet, as one Forest fan perfectly put it, waiting to see if a Champions League club comes calling, Bidstrup seems genuinely open to what we're building here, and why wouldn't he be? We're offering him the chance to be a key player in our first European campaign for 29 years. We're giving him the opportunity to step up from the Austrian Bundesliga to the Premier League, from Europa League qualification rounds to Conference League group stages, where he can be the star rather than just another squad player. The numbers back up the excitement too. Bidstrup's contract runs until 2028. He's entering the prime years of his career, and his market value is perfectly positioned for the kind of ambitious but sensible business that's defined our recent transfer strategy. But here's what really gets my blood pumping about those "we'll see" comments. They represent something much bigger than just one potential signing. They show that Forest have reached a level where Champions League captains are actively considering joining our project. 3 years ago, we couldn't convince championship players to take a punt on us. Now we've got international captains publicly keeping the door open for our advances. The fact that Bidstrup specifically mentioned the 3-week timeline shows he's not just been polite, he's genuinely weighing up his options, and we're clearly one of them. His current situation at Salzburg is fascinating too. He's already led them through Champions League qualifiers this season, he's established himself as one of the best midfielders in Austria, but there's a sense that he's ready for the next challenge. And what we're offering isn't just another step up. It's a leap into a completely different stratosphere. Premier League football, European nights at the city ground, the chance to be part of something truly historic. When you combine all of that with the agent connection, with our track record of developing players, with the financial package we can offer, suddenly those "we'll see" comments start to look less like diplomatic deflection and more like genuine possibility. Have you ever seen Forest generate this kind of response from a player of this caliber? A Champions League captain actively leaving the door open for our approaches? Comment below and tell me, do you think Bidstrup would be the perfect replacement for what we lost when Danilo left? Or are we aiming too high? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you that aiming high is exactly what's been working for us. Just when you thought Forest's transfer window couldn't get any more impressive, along comes a story that perfectly encapsulates how far this football club has risen in the European hierarchy. We've just embarrassed two of Italy's biggest clubs in a transfer race, leaving them scrambling for alternatives while we calmly secure our target. And the way we've done it shows exactly why the old rules of football transfers simply don't apply to us anymore. Meet Jackson Chachoa, the Cameroon international who's about to become the latest example of Forest's new transfer dominance. Now, here's where this gets absolutely beautiful from our perspective. Both AC Milan and Inter Milan have been tracking Chachoa for months. Two Champions League clubs, two giants of European football, two teams with history that stretches back over a century. And they've both been left completely red-faced as Forest swooped in with a decisive $12 million bid that's blown them out of the water. But this isn't just about outbidding bigger clubs. It's about the ruthless efficiency with which we've operated compared to their dithering and indecision. Inter Milan have been interested in Chachoa for the entire summer. They've had scouts watching him. They've had meetings with his representatives. They've done all the groundwork that you'd expect from a club of their stature. But here's where their arrogance cost them everything. They put his pursuit on hold while they sorted out Denzel Dumfries' future. They assumed they could pick and choose when to make their move, that a player like Chacho would simply wait around for them to get their house in order. Meanwhile, AC Milan was circling with the typical Italian approach. Lots of talk, lots of interest, but no decisive action when it mattered most. And that's when Forest struck with the precision of a tactical masterstroke. $12 million plus add-ons. Done. Dusted. No messing about. No playing games. No assumption that our interest would be treated as secondary to the Italian giants. Hellas Verona didn't even hesitate. When you've got one club offering concrete terms and two others still exploring possibilities, the choice becomes very simple very quickly. But here's what makes this signing so much more significant than just another squad addition. Chacho represents exactly the kind of player that defines modern football success. We're talking about a 23-year-old who can operate on both flanks, who's proven himself in Serie A, one of the most tactically demanding leagues in world football, and who brings the kind of versatility that Nuno absolutely loves. 62 matches for Hellas Verona, 2 goals, 5 assists, and the kind of defensive solidity that allowed him to nullify threats from some of the best attackers in Italian football. Remember, this is a player who successfully stifled Dan and Doyle when Bologna played Verona last season, and now they'll be teammates at Forest. The tactical analysis is fascinating too. Chacho's ability to play as a right back, left back, or even push forward into midfield gives Nuno the flexibility to adapt our system based on opposition and game state. In European competition especially, that kind of tactical versatility could be the difference between progressing and going home early. But there's a deeper psychological element here that shows exactly how our approach has evolved. 3 years ago, if Milan and Inter were interested in a player, Forest wouldn't even bother making an inquiry. We'd assume we were out of our league, that players would naturally choose Champions League football over whatever we could offer. Now we're the ones dictating terms and leaving supposed giants scrambling for alternatives. The financial aspect tells its own story too. Verona paid just $3 million for Chacho from Charleroi. 18 months later, they're selling him for $12 million plus add-ons. That's not just good business. That's the kind of profit margin that shows a player's stock has risen dramatically. And why has his stock risen? Because he's proven he can compete at the highest level, because he's shown the consistency and quality that attracted interest from multiple top clubs, because scouts across Europe have identified him as someone with genuine Premier League potential. The fact that we've been able to jump ahead of Milan and Inter in the queue shows something fundamental about our current position in football. We're not the plucky underdogs anymore. We're genuine competitors who can offer things that even Champions League clubs can't match. What can we offer that Milan and Inter can't? Guaranteed playing time in a team that's on an upward trajectory. The chance to be part of something genuinely special rather than just another squad player at a club with dozens of internationals. We can offer a manager in Nuno who has a track record of developing players, an owner in Marinakis who isn't afraid to back his ambitions with serious investment, and a project that feels like it's building towards something truly significant. The timing couldn't be better either. Chacho is coming into his peak years. He's got the hunger and energy that European competition demands, and he's joining a squad that's perfectly positioned to make a real impact in continental football. The versatility factor is crucial for our European campaign too. When you're playing Thursday night football and then Premier League matches at the weekend, when you're dealing with different tactical approaches from opponents across multiple competitions, having players who can adapt and fill different roles becomes absolutely essential. And here's what really gets me excited about this signing. It shows that our scouting network and recruitment strategy are operating at a level that's making established European giants look amateur by comparison. While Milan and Inter were pontificating and planning and discussing internal strategies, we identified our target, made our move, and secured our man. That's the kind of decisive action that wins transfer windows and builds successful squads. The message this sends to other targets on our list is enormous too. When word gets out that Forest are the kind of club that can beat AC Milan and Inter the signings, When agents and players see that we're operating with this level of efficiency and ambition, suddenly every conversation becomes easier. What do you think, Forest fans? Does beating Milan and Inter to a signing prove we're operating at a completely different level now? Or is this just the beginning of what we can achieve in the transfer market? Comment below with your thoughts, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you that this kind of transfer dominance is becoming our new normal. If you thought Forest's transfer ambitions had reached their peak, what happened 13 hours ago will completely shatter every assumption you had about how far this club is willing to go to compete with Europe's elite. Because the reigning Serie A champions have just fired the first shot in what's shaping up to be the most intense transfer battle of our entire window. And their opening move has revealed exactly why they're terrified of what we're building at the City ground. Napoli have submitted an official bid worth $22 million plus bonuses for Yunus Musah. And the desperation behind that offer tells you everything you need to know about how serious our threat has become. Let me break down exactly why this isn't just another transfer story, but rather a defining moment that proves Forest are now operating in the same stratosphere as Champions League winners. Antonio Conte, a manager who's won league titles in 3 different countries, who's coached at the highest level for over a decade, has personally identified Musah as his absolute priority signing. Not just a nice addition, not a squad rotation option, but the player he sees as essential to Napoli's success this season. And yet, despite all of Napoli's advantages, Champions League football, Serie A glory, one of the most successful coaches in world football, they felt compelled to rush in with an official bid because they know Forest are breathing down their necks. Think about that for a moment. The team that won Serie A just months ago, the club that can offer everything a player could want in terms of prestige and European competition, couldn't afford to wait or play games with their negotiating strategy. They've seen what we're capable of. They've heard the whispers about our interest, and they've panicked into making a move that screams desperation rather than confidence. But here's where this gets really interesting from our perspective. $22 million plus bonuses isn't just Napoli's opening gambit. It's likely close to their maximum offer for a player they consider essential. Serie A clubs, even successful ones, operate under financial constraints that simply don't apply to Premier League teams with ambitious owners. They have to be careful with every euro. They have to consider salary caps and financial fair play in ways that can limit their flexibility. Meanwhile, Forest under Marinakis have shown time and time again that when we want a player, money isn't the primary obstacle. We've broken our transfer record multiple times in recent windows. We've competed with clubs far bigger than ourselves, and we've never shied away from backing our ambitions with serious investment. The tactical reasoning behind Conte's desperation is fascinating too. Musah represents exactly the kind of midfielder that can elevate a team from good to great, someone with the physicality to handle Premier League football, the technical ability to unlock defenses, and the versatility to operate in multiple systems. Conte sees him as the perfect alternative to Andre Frank Zambo Anguissa, but also as someone who could potentially replace the Cameroon international during his Africa Cup of Nations absence. That's not just squad planning, that's the kind of strategic thinking that wins titles. And here's what makes Napoli's position even more precarious. They know that Musah's preference would be to stay in Italy if the choice was purely geographical. Playing in Serie A, remaining in a familiar environment, working under a coach of Conte's caliber. On paper, it should be an easy decision. But football isn't played on paper, and Forest have proven time and time again that we can offer things that even Champions League clubs struggle to match. What can we offer that Napoli can't? The Premier League, for starters, the most watched, most competitive, most financially rewarding league in world football. For a player like Musah, who spent 7 years in Arsenal's academy, there's something poetic about returning to English football at the peak of his powers. We can also offer him a central role in our European adventure. While Napoli will be competing on multiple fronts with a squad full of internationals, Forest would be building our entire European strategy around players like Musah. The difference in playing time and importance could be massive. At Napoli, he'd be competing with established stars for minutes. At Forest, he'd be one of the star attractions from day one. But perhaps most importantly, we can offer him the chance to be part of something genuinely special and unique. Napoli are trying to defend titles they've already won. Forest are trying to create history that's never been written. The financial implications of this bidding war are staggering too. AC Milan are reportedly looking for $30 million for Musa, which means Napoli's $22 million offer falls significantly short of the asking price. That gap between offer and asking price tells you everything about Napoli's financial constraints and everything about the opportunity that Forest could seize if we're willing to be decisive. The psychological warfare element is getting intense as well. Italian reports suggest that Conte has been personally involved in convincing Musa to choose Napoli, that the coach has been selling his vision for how the American would fit into his tactical system. But charm offensives, tactical presentations only go so far when you're competing against a club that's prepared to back their ambitions with the kind of financial commitment that Napoli simply can't match. And here's what really gets my pulse racing about this entire situation. The fact that we're even mentioned in the same breath as Napoli for a player of this caliber shows how far Forest have come in just 3 years. This isn't David versus Goliath anymore. This is two legitimate contenders fighting for the same prize, with neither having a clear advantage over the other. The timeline is crucial too. These negotiations are happening in real time, with decisions potentially being made within hours rather than days. By the time you're watching this video, we could already know whether Forest have matched or exceeded Napoli's offer. What do you think, Forest fans? Are you ready to see us go toe-to-toe with Serie A champions in a proper transfer war? Should we be willing to outbid Conte's Napoli for a player who could define our European campaign? Comment below and let me know, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you that this battle with Napoli might just be the warm-up act for something even bigger. Just when you thought the Napoli bidding war couldn't get any more intense, what's emerged in the last 5 hours has completely rewritten the narrative of this transfer battle and proven beyond any doubt that Forest are ready to play at the very highest level of European football. Because while Conte's champions were celebrating their $22 million offer, Forest were quietly preparing a response that would blow their bid out of the water and send a message that will echo through every boardroom in Europe. We're in the lead for Yunus Musa, but only if we're prepared to submit a $30 million offer that will give us a clear path to his signature. Let that sink in for a moment. $30 million. That's $8 million more than the reigning Serie A champions were willing to offer. That's a statement of intent that makes every other club in this race look like they're playing in the reserves while we're competing for Champions League glory. But here's what makes this revelation so much more significant than just another big bid. The language being used by sources close to the negotiations. Clear path. Those two words tell you everything about how this transfer battle has evolved. AC Milan have essentially indicated that if Forest meet their $30 million valuation, there won't be any more obstacles, any more complications, any more waiting around for other clubs to make their moves. $30 million gets us Musa. End of story. The psychological impact of that number on Napoli must be absolutely devastating. They've gone all out with their $22 million offer. They've had Conte personally involved in convincing the player. They've pulled every string they can pull. And now they're faced with the reality that Forest can simply blow past their maximum offer without breaking stride. This is what operating with Marinakis level ambition looks like in practice. While other clubs are counting euros and calculating risk, we're focused on one simple question. What does it take to get our man? The tactical significance of potentially landing Musa cannot be overstated either. We're talking about a player who can transform our entire approach to European football. Someone with the technical ability to unlock the kind of defensive systems we'll face in continental competition. His versatility is perfect for Nuno's system too. Whether we need him as a deep-lying playmaker, an attacking midfielder, or even drifting out wide to create overloads, Musa has the intelligence and skill set to adapt to whatever the game demands. But there's a fascinating power dynamic at play here that goes far beyond just this one transfer. What we're seeing is Forest establishing themselves as a club that won't be outbid when we've identified our priority targets. The $30 million figure isn't just about securing Musa, it's about sending a message to every other player on our shortlist. every agent we're negotiating with, every club that thinks they can outmuscle us in the transfer market. That message is simple. If Forest want you, Forest will get you. The timeline is absolutely crucial too. These negotiations are happening with lightning speed, with sources suggesting that Milan are expecting an official offer from Forest imminently. We're not talking about weeks of deliberation. We're talking about decisions being made in real time. That kind of decisive action is exactly what separates elite clubs from everyone else. While Napoli are presumably going back to their boardroom to discuss whether they can find another few million euros, Forest are prepared to meet the asking price and move on to the next target. The financial implications are staggering when you consider our transfer activity this summer. Dan Doy for $40 million, potential bids of $30 million for Musa, $12 million for Chachawa, rejected offers worth $35 million for Hutchinson, and $28 million for Bakwa. We're not just spending money. We're investing at a level that puts us in direct competition with Champions League clubs across multiple targets. And here's what makes this whole situation so beautifully poetic. Musa's background with Arsenal means he understands exactly what Premier League football represents. 7 years in their academy, watching from the sidelines as they competed at the highest level, dreaming of the day he'd get his chance to prove himself in English football. Now Forest are offering him that chance, not as a squad player fighting for minutes, but as a central figure in our most important season for 3 decades. The contrast with his situation at AC Milan couldn't be more stark either. At Milan, he's been a useful squad player, someone who can fill gaps when needed, but not necessarily a first-choice starter. At Forest, he'd be walking into a team that's specifically built around players who can make the difference in crucial moments. He'd be joining a project where his success directly translates to the club's success. The European dimension adds another layer of excitement too. Musa has Champions League experience with Milan. He knows what it takes to perform on the biggest stage, and he'd be bringing that expertise to a Forest squad that's hungry to make its mark in continental competition. Imagine Musa running the show in our first European home game for 29 years. Picture him unlocking stubborn defenses in the Conference League knockout rounds. Think about what his presence could mean for our chances of making a genuine impact in European football. The fact that we're even in this position, outbidding Serie A champions, preparing $30 million offers, being described as in the lead for a player who started in the World Cup for the United States, shows how far this football club has risen. But here's what really gets my blood pumping. If we can land Musa for $30 million, if we can beat Napoli to his signature, if we can add that level of quality to a squad that's already proven it can compete with the Premier League's best, what exactly is our ceiling? What level can this team actually reach? Are you ready to see Forest make a $30 million statement that would embarrass Serie A champions and announce our arrival as genuine European contenders? Do you think Musa is worth outbidding Conte for? Comment below and tell me your thoughts, because what I'm about to reveal next will show you that even a $30 million signing might not be the most ambitious thing we're planning this summer. After everything you've heard so far, the Danish captains, the Italian giants left embarrassed, the $30 million bidding wars with Serie A champions, you might think Forest's ambitions for this transfer window have reached their absolute peak. You'd be wrong. Because what I'm about to reveal will show you that all of those moves, all of those statements of intent, all of those demonstrations of our new level in European football, they were just a warm-up act for something truly extraordinary. Forest have set their sights on a, super eagle star, who's currently being chased by Arsenal and Inter Milan. And if we can pull off this signing, it would represent the most audacious piece of business in our entire modern history. Now, I need to be careful here because we're dealing with a player who represents the absolute pinnacle of what Forest could achieve in this transfer market. We're talking about someone who's not just wanted by big clubs, but actively pursued by giants of European football. Arsenal, Inter Milan. 2 clubs with Champions League history, massive global fan bases, and the kind of pulling power that most teams can only dream about. And yet Forest have thrown our hat into the ring with the confidence of a club that believes we can compete with anyone for any player. The psychological shift that represents is absolutely staggering when you think about our journey over the last 3 years. From League One threats to competing with Arsenal for the same targets. From relegation battles to going head-to-head with Inter Milan in the transfer market. This isn't just about one potential signing. It's about Forest announcing to the football world that there are no limits to our ambitions anymore. The tactical profile of this particular player would be absolutely perfect for what Nuno wants to achieve this season. We're talking about someone with pace, power, and the kind of technical ability that can unlock any defense in European competition. Super ego stars don't become available very often, and when they do, there's usually a feeding frenzy among Europe's biggest clubs. The fact that Forest are even being mentioned in that conversation tells you everything about how far our reputation has spread. But here's what makes this potential pursuit so fascinating. It represents a completely different type of transfer strategy from what we've seen with Musa or Bistrup. Those were players who we could realistically convince to choose us over other options. Quality players, but not necessarily the first choice of every major club in Europe. This Super Eagle star, this is a player who could walk into almost any team in world football. This is someone who Arsenal see as a genuine difference maker, who Inter Milan believe could elevate their Champions League ambitions, and Forest believe we can compete for his signature. The financial implications would be enormous too. We're not talking about the $12 million for Chacho or even the $30 million for Musa. A player of this caliber, with this level of interest from elite clubs, would represent an investment that dwarfs anything we've ever attempted. But that's exactly what makes it so exciting. For too long, Forest have had to be clever in the transfer market, finding value where others couldn't, developing players who weren't quite ready for the biggest clubs. Now we're talking about competing for players who are already operating at the highest level. The message this would send to our current squad would be incredible too. When players like Morgan Gibbs-White and Dan Ndoye see that the club is targeting genuine world-class talent, when they realize that Forest's ambitions stretch far beyond just surviving in the Premier League, that's when squad mentality shifts from hope to expectation, from gratitude to hunger, from being happy to compete to being determined to win. The European dimension makes this even more compelling. Conference League football might not sound as glamorous as Champions League nights, but for a player looking at Forest's trajectory, looking at our investment, looking at the project we're building, sometimes being the star of an emerging force is more attractive than being another name on a superstar roster. What we can offer that Arsenal and Inter can't is simple: guaranteed importance, guaranteed playing time, and guaranteed appreciation. At Forest, this player wouldn't just be another signing. They'd be the crown jewel of the most ambitious project in English football. The timing couldn't be more perfect either. With European football returning to the City Ground for the first time in 29 years, with the entire football world watching to see if our remarkable rise can continue. Landing a player of this caliber would be the ultimate statement that Forest aren't just back. We're here to dominate. And here's what really gets me excited about even attempting a move like this. It shows that Marinakis and Nuno truly believe there are no limits to what this club can achieve. 3 years ago, we couldn't attract championship players. 2 years ago, Premier League survival was our wildest dream. Last year, European qualification felt impossible. Now we're talking about competing with Arsenal and Inter Milan for Super Eagle stars. That's not just progress, that's revolution. The fact that we're even being mentioned alongside those clubs in transfer discussions shows that our reputation has spread far beyond just English football. Agents, players, clubs across Europe are starting to view Forest as a legitimate destination for elite talent. But perhaps most importantly, it shows that we're not content to rest on the achievements of last season. European qualification wasn't the end goal. It was just the beginning of something much bigger. What does it say about our ambitions when we're prepared to go head-to-head with Arsenal? What does it mean for the future of this club when Inter Milan see us as genuine competition in the transfer market? It means we're not just playing catch-up anymore, we're setting the pace. So here's the question that will define not just this transfer window, but the entire direction of Nottingham Forest for the next decade. Are we ready to back our European dreams with the kind of investment that would make the football world take notice? Are we prepared to show Arsenal and Inter Milan that Forest can compete with anyone, for anyone, anywhere? The next few days will give us all the answers we need. But one thing's already clear. This isn't the same Nottingham Forest that struggled in the championship just 3 years ago. This is a club that believes it belongs at the very top of European football. And we're about to find out just how high that belief can take us. Like this video if these revelations have blown your mind. Subscribe for every twist in what's shaping up to be the transfer window that defines our future. And comment below with your predictions for how this incredible story ends. Because something tells me these 48 hours were just the beginning of the most extraordinary chapter